Welcome to the Wonder Boldly podcast, hosted by yours truly, Christine, founder of Drizzle Academy. I am going to encourage and motivate you to take action towards your big goals. I'm going to teach you everything I've learned from building a very successful 25-year career, coaching people, and starting my own online business. I am going to give you so many action items. You are going to be able to wonder boldly. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wonder Boldly. Today, I have with me a very new friend. We met in a program that we're both in together, and she has an extensive background that I'm probably going to ask her about, and she will share a little bit about that. It's very, very interesting to me. As you know, I love to learn about new different types of, whether it's methodologies, different people skills, different cultures, all of that. And she brings to the table a different upbringing, I'll say, than I am accustomed to, used to. And I really enjoyed her story as we were getting to know each other. And she is this amazing woman starting R.I.S.E Media. She'll tell us about that, really working to help performers become more able to create income, sustainable lifestyle. How can we better prepare, and how can we really looking at it in the United States, and she'll talk about this is not my area of expertise, but really educate and create an environment for our performers so that they have a sustainable lifestyle. I'll say it that way, and she will say it much better than I do. And as we were talking ahead of time, I was saying to her, this isn't your first rodeo. This is not your first foray. She has experience in other areas as well, and she'll chat about that. So as you know, I love to have people on that have wondered boldly. What can they do? What can they bring? How can they serve? Maybe even looking inward and like looking at ourselves. And you all know my personal journey, and how can we improve ourselves for the better, for ourselves first and foremost. I always say that. For ourselves first, so that we can be the best partner, the best parent, the best community member, whatever it is that's important to us. And I just cherish these conversations. And Susanne has so much to bring to the table. I can't wait for her to share with you her story and to help you envision what is it that you can do to step out of your comfort zone, to step out and take action on those things that you're wondering about. So with all that said, Susanne, thank you so much for being with us. It's a pleasure to get to know you better. I look forward to our continued friendship. And thank you so much for your time today and sharing your story with us.
Oh my gosh, pleasure is all mine. Like, I cannot believe that we're actually recording and having this conversation. So the honor is all mine. Really,
thank
truly.
you. It's so fun. I love this. So please tell my audience, first and foremost, an introduction from your current standpoint, if you will, what you're currently working on, where your efforts right now are focused.
So currently I am working on building R.I.S.E Media, which stands for Reimagine Sustainable Entertainment. R.I.S.E Media is a platform and an app that will enable performing artists, companies that are working in the performing arts sector, and even coaches and creators that are in the performing artist realm to really create multiple streams of income so that they're not really only depending on stage contracts or freelancing, but that they have multiple outlets, really, how they can create wealth. I don't know if you're familiar with the starving artist mentality. I'm sure, we all had somebody that said, oh, I want to be an artist. And you ask them, so what's your real job? No, being a creator, being an artist is a real job, and you can make a good living with it when you change your mindset. So this is what I am working on right now at this very moment.
And so that mindset of the starving artist, I don't know, really where that came from, or that's like, that
Yeah,
is,
it's like way back to Shakespeare. and
Right?
further back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like let's take Van Gogh, all of these artists really just became famous after they passed away, or Beethoven, for example. I mean, that man cut his ear off because he just went crazy. Um, it was because they did not see the worth, or society didn't see the worth in what they were creating. And therefore, they didn't receive the monetary funds, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
people had to harass or ask for donations from really wealthy people in order to pay for the production, and then they paid very little to the artists, which then enhanced the starving artist mentality. There weren't that many. I mean, Mozart, for example, he was paid really well by the king, but he didn't know how to manage his money. He drank it all away. So the starving artist mentality really comes from centuries and centuries and centuries.
Yeah. And so as an artist, does one go into that with that mentality, that thinking, okay, I'm going to be an artist, I'm going to be a dancer, and I'm going to be a starving artist? Or does one go into that with, that's not going to be me, and I am going to have a great income, I'm going to have this great life? Like, what is sort of that mentality? And maybe this is a good segue if you would like to share a little bit of your backstory and on your own journey being an artist.
Great question. So I would say it depends on where and how you grew up, like how it has your family formed your belief system around being an artist. Like how many times have you been asked, okay, you have to go to college though so you can fall back onto something and get a real job before you actually come be part of a company? So for me, my family, I think, fell off their rockers when I said, okay, I want to be a dancer. Like I was 3 years old and this is what I'm going to do, because they were academically very intelligent. They're both really well acclaimed chemists. And for me to go the complete other way was first a real big shock, but they encouraged me to follow my heart. And where I grew up in East Germany, it was a really well looked at and after profession, that once you had your job, you could keep that for 15 years. Once you had a job, you didn't get fired. It was just not, you were part of the family. After 15 years, you were basically unfireable. So they had to keep you in different roles in the theater. And until you retired, you were just secure. Let's just say it that way.
Mm-hmm.
We had all of these perks of paid vacation and 13 months of salary and oh gosh, everything. I had my own shoemaker, my own costume maker, my own makeup artist, hairdresser, like everything. We've had it all, literally. And we had the ability to travel, which in East Germany, like we only were allowed to travel in the Eastern Bloc, which was like 8 countries maybe to top that. But as an artist, you were bringing a claim to the country, like, sport people do,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
athletes did or still do. We were in that same category in Germany at that point. Okay. And for us to travel to, I don't know, the United States or wherever, it wasn't an issue. It didn't take 20 years to get the visa.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my upbringing. Like I was special.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not learn until I came to the United States what the other side actually of being an artist could look like. And I'm still learning on what the mentality is and how we're actually valuing this kind of product, maybe
Mm-hmm.
is the right word, in a society, right?
Mm-hmm.
And may I just say that Europe is starting to go that way too, because European companies are fully, 70% subsidized. And that is a big chunk of the yearly budget to cover in a country, right? Because they have so many theaters that they're looking after, and really ticket sales are only covering 30% of their actual budgets. And they don't need to go fundraise. They get it.
I see. Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about Germany, right? Why did you leave Germany? What was the...
Oh, why did I leave Germany? Well, so on the outside, I left because my boyfriend at the time moved back to the States.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, why not? Like, 7 years into, like, I have my 7-year turns. Why don't I just go? But I knew at 13 already. So that's the real root, is that Germany wasn't a country for me that I wanted to live in. It was too black and white. We never, like, I love everything about it. I just can't, I don't like to live there.
So then you came to the States, and then were you a dancer in the States?
So I danced in the States for 3 years, 2 years. I think I made it 2 years. And I had a complete meltdown, physically, mentally. Like, I literally walked out, took my shoes. I was like, I'm done. With being an immigrant, I only was able to be in the States because of the work visa I had with that was attached to the job.
Oh,
and I
okay.
left the job. So I all of a sudden had nothing, not even the permission to stay in the country.
Oh my gosh, that was really brave. So
Thank you.
very brave. So I imagine, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you got to a point where you felt you weren't treated, you weren't respected, you weren't treated well, like something happened. Like, what was it that you were like, this is no more, no more?
So I think I felt set back into my years in ballet school, where I spent literally 8 years from 10 till 18. In an environment that was very competitive, that was very disrespectful. I think the philosophy was, we're going to break you down to build you back up. And I was 28 at that point when I joined that company, and the philosophy was the same thing. I'm going to break you down to build you back up. And as a 20-year-old woman, I couldn't. Like, there is nothing to break down here.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to play this game anymore. Even though I couldn't voice it, I could feel it, because my body literally sent me all of these reminders. You know, when you all of a sudden get sick, or it's not because you're actually sick, it's because your mental space, like, you're literally, your body is sending you all of these signals. No, like, this was my 2x4 just kept on bashing in my face. No, this is not your place. Get out. Like, this is going to completely break you. There's nobody going to be there to build you back up. I mean, our director, sorry, side note, y'all, his office was in a formal vault of the bank, and it still had the door where so that was the kind of leadership style that was really proclaimed in that company. We got feedback once a year at the end of the season, where we found out whether or not our contract was extended for the next season, and if we got a raise or not. That was like, there's one thing I want you to do. I'm like, you could have told me 7, 8, 9 months ago, and I would have made progress so much more. No, you had to wait until today to tell me. You know, it's that, like, how are we helping each other to grow? Like, this whole leadership concept just did not exist. Yeah. And it's really hard to be creative in an environment like that. It is really hard and stressful to pour your heart out and deliver and performance on a high level, and also be able to be vulnerable. Like, there was no such thing. We weren't allowed to sit down during rehearsal time. Like, I felt like literally I'm 10 years old. So these are the things that, when applied over and over and over again, they just break you.
And was it like that in Germany?
Not like that, no.
Interesting.
In a school, oh yeah, but not in a company. Like, we were all at least seen as adults. I mean, the mind games that they were playing with us, that was like, I remember I was once called in the office and said, we do not agree with the current relationship that you're in. We want you to break off this relationship, or else you will never ever dance a soloist role in this company again. Yeah.
So all these stories you're telling me, I'm fighting not saying this, but now you just said that, so now I have to say this. So it sounds like
it's my fault. I get it. That's okay.
No.
It's okay. I'll take it.
It sounds so horrible, and it sounds like you're treated as like possessions. Is that so horrible to say? It sounds like
interesting, isn't it? And thank you for bringing that up, because I never really was able to voice that. And I'm sure not everybody has done the work in order to really speak up about their experiences, because so many people think this is normal. Like, so many people in the performing artist industry think it is normal to struggle. It is normal to be told these things. It's normal to have an eating disorder. It's normal to be fighting with depression and anxiety and to be dependent on substances. It is not normal. And being a possession, yeah, if you, and I'm just going to get into this, if you look at how performing arts organizations are looked like structured, artistic directors go home with like mid to high six-figure salaries. Okay. And administrative staff too, where the artists are making like anywhere between low and mid figure, 5 figures, sorry, on not 52 weeks, but maybe 41 or 48 if you're lucky. And that's where we see the divide, right? Like how are we valuing how people are actually contributing to the whole product? And for me, the artists are the product. Like there's no hands down. Everybody else is not needed because the artists know their craft and they know how to put on a show. Like I'm not talking about everybody working on the stage, but everybody else around is really not needed. So why are we valuing them so differently? Why are we not showing any respect? And I think it has to do with what we just talked about, this perpetual story that we have been passing on for years, decades, centuries for that matter, that an artist needs to be starving and we need to mistreat them and that we can do whatever we want with them because they're not here to make money. They're here to, they would do anything because they love what they do so much. And like, even as an entrepreneur, like, let's think of the belief that we've had when we were in corporate, like you cannot love what you do and make money at the same time. I never wondered boldly, and how can I monetize that? Like I looked at the problem always from the other side. Yeah. It's like, what can I do? What am I capable of? And how much money can I make with that? So I think that's where perspective becomes such an important puzzle piece to interject in there. It's like, if we change our perspective, we change our reality, right? And that's all it takes, really.
That's all it takes, really.
Yeah.
So, okay. So going back to, so you took this huge, brave leap and said, I'm out. And now what happens?
Oh, well, I wanted to, like, this experience for me was very much like, okay, screw this. I am just going to found my own company. Dancers, orchestra, we're going to do it like in Europe. I'm going to go back to Charleston and I'm going to make it happen. And that was right after 9/11 struck, like literally months after. And we pulled it off. We did one show. And when it just became time, the person that was to invest and to underwrite pulled the trigger in not a good way, because he wanted access to all the female dancers on a fit for all basis. And I said, no. Absolutely not. You cannot have access to them. They're protected. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want to look after them. I don't want him to go through what I went through. And I'm not saying that I was in any way sexually abused but that's my job. Like, that's my mission. I want them to feel safe and not to farm them out. And that's how we had to fold. Yeah. And that was not a very nice experience. And quite honestly, my husband and I, at that point, we lost everything. We lost all the money we had invested. We lost our house. I lost,
oh my gosh,
credibility. We were written up in the New York Times, pretty nasty. And I still have, last year actually, a very angry dancer that, she's still, after 17 years, has not made peace, which is not on me, but it definitely opened up a whole new chapter. Like, there was a lot of shame in there for like me personally. It's like, oh shoot, like you royally failed here. So I have two choices. Either I'm going to go hide and feel sorry for myself and never, ever gonna step outside of my comfort zone again, or I look at it what it was, a great lesson and a great redirection, what to do better next time. Failure was not something that I grew up with as something that is okay. And I think many of your listeners can relate to that. In order to receive love, you had to be successful or you had to do the right thing, right? And if I didn't, then I didn't receive love. And that was really that's hard for anybody to take, really.
I wonder what you've thought about this perspective. So with that situation, first and foremost, even though we want to sometimes, I'll speak for myself, I want to sometimes for my clients, control the outcome. But we can't, right? That is not our job as humans. We don't control people's outcomes, right? I wonder, I've had many conversations with people, someone is left upset, and I understand this was a huge situation for you, losing your house, bankrupt, huge. And this woman is upset. How have you thought about the perspective that it could have been worse? Like, for me, an outsider, not living the very traumatic, I'm sure, situations, all I see is, thank goodness you did that. What would have happened to those girls?
Oh, yeah. There was no other choice, really, truly. Absolutely.
That woman is upset, meaning it could have been worse for all those girls that you were like, no, you were not going to have access.
They
And
never knew, though, right? I never told them.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't my story to tell. And it was not something that I wanted to really pride myself with or. Yeah, it could have been worse. Could have been much worse.
Yeah.
Like choose your heart.
Yeah.
I think that's really where it comes down to.
Right. In the time that we've been together, here are two stories of how brave you are. Walking out on, you're like, nope, I'm for you, I'm done, right? And you're here on a work visa. So, and then this falls apart because you're like, this is a non-negotiable. These women, you're not going to have access to these women, and then everything falls apart. For me, looking at you and hearing this story, to me, I'm just thinking, what a brave human being you are. Do you feel that about yourself? How do you feel about these events?
Thank you for bringing that up. So on my road to healing, it is still challenging for me to take in compliments. I have this innate rebuttal that I want to throw at your face, kindly. And I'm choosing not to because, yeah, you're right. That is very courageous. However, I could have not seen any other way. I don't know if there was any other thing that I could have done. Verbally, we can think of many. I know that I wouldn't have been able to live through that. Like, if I had to stay in that company for another Nutcracker season, I would have not made it. I was like 95 pounds. I smoked like 2 packs of cigarettes. I was done. My feet, everything in between, like all the nerves were so inflamed that I didn't even know how to get into point shoes anymore. And just looking back, like connecting the dots backwards, it was just my body so revolting. Now, did I have to like walk out angry and arrogantly versus having a conversation? No, not necessarily. But I also didn't have the strength to be in the same room with my director, telling him what's going on, and then not being convinced by him to stay. I would have not had the strength. Like, I really had to burn that bridge in order to follow through.
And I think, that's an interesting lesson right there.
Right?
Right? Because I'll often say, one of my main sayings to people in corporate, or like, well, you never want to burn a bridge because you never know what's going to happen. And now we're in the great resignation, and great, move on, but don't burn a bridge. And isn't this an interesting perspective, in that seeing it in a different light, like having to burn the bridge is the answer? It's why should you, here you have all this emotion, it built up over time. It's not like you were having a tantrum, like things happen, right? And we get emotional. And this was something that built up over time, and you didn't have the strength to, I totally understand what you're saying. You did not have the strength to, like have a conversation and let's talk, it's like, I am done. And actually that was the right response. Burning that bridge was the right response. So it's not always, this is such a good lesson for all of us, for me especially, it's not always don't burn the bridge.
You know what? I never looked at that that way until we had that conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
It's
Yeah.
very interesting. And it's so interesting how we struggle with our intuition and also our fears and emotions and all the other things. It's like, which is which? Is this my body? And yours was screaming at you, right? In those extreme circumstances. Is this my body telling me, my intuition telling me, you know what, this is not the path for me right now? Or is it, something else? Or is it I'm tired, I don't feel like it, or I'm fearful, so it's that balance and balance isn't even the right word. It's that it's navigating those different options, and we don't always make the right choice.
I think you have a really, really beautiful point there. I think if we just, and here I say it again, wandered boldly more often on what our body, our intuition is really telling us, I think we would be well, let's just say the path would be a little more swiftly, there wouldn't be so many rose petals in the way that we would have to step over. Yeah, I knew that I shouldn't have gone there. I knew I should not go there in the beginning. I didn't want to be the beginner again, or, not seen for what I really was capable of. I didn't feel like I wanted to fight to be respected again. But I did not pay attention to my intuition.
Mm-hmm. And that's a huge lesson for all of us, meaning that, to be able to really listen to your intuition. I talk to so many people, I'm sure you do as well. And it's like, after the fact, it's like, well, it wasn't right. I knew it wasn't right at the time, but I did it anyways, and all that to say, yes, that's our intuition speaking to us and trying to lead us, but also the journey can be very valuable as well, a lesson along the way, right? And not such extreme, I'll say, situations. Okay, so much to talk about. Susanne, I could talk to you for hours.
Podcast episode will be 3 hours long. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Right? Get comfortable, get your comfortable blanket on, and
put your blankie on.
So tell us about R.I.S.E Media and what you're trying to do there. Tell us what's going on right now.
I'm going to back up because for me, the journey to actually getting here is part of it. So when the pandemic hit, I finally had the courage and the permission again to go back to what is really in my soul, because I have been looking for my purpose for, I don't know, a year or so prior. It's like, when is it? Just tell me. Impatient still. And it's like, it's like, oh, I can't go back there. Like, everybody hates me and I'm never going to be successful. And I had all of these stories build up, trying to soothe my ego, and not listening to my intuition. So I remember when I started my self-development journey, I was like, oh gosh, like every single dancer would so benefit from all the mindset work and all the self-development. Like, why didn't I do this when I was dancing? Like, I could have been a star, literally, because my body was capable, my mind wasn't. So when the pandemic hit, I started coaching dancers on their mindset, high performing habits, like just navigating them through what is happening right now and how great that actually could be. But what I found was that the struggle was actually more deeply rooted than I actually had expected. And they all of a sudden lost all of their ability to earn income. Like, if you weren't, above the 100,000 followers with your blue check mark, you didn't get any sponsors, and there's only so many point shoes that can be, shown for. And I met some more people with the launch of my podcast. So I had other performing artists coming in from like other genres of the performing arts, and they all struggled with the same thing. And then I learned about Patreon and all of these different platforms where, you're still in that little box on how you can make money, and there's only one way, or you have to live in the States in order to do that, or you get like, I don't know, not even 1 cent per 1,000 views. So the platform owns your content, your fans, and everything that you're producing, and they're paying you, meaning they are in control and making millions. And yes, you have the ability to, and it gives you a beautiful way of being known and receiving other possibilities. But what if we create something that actually is compatible with Web3, that is now emerging through AI, crypto, NFTs, etc. Right? And that's how R.I.S.E. Media started to blossom. It's like, what would it look like if we take performing arts altogether out of the non-for-profit status?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if they don't have to chase money anymore? What if they can make it themselves? What if we're putting them back onto the front page of the newspapers over and over again? What if we're bringing them to everybody, making them accessible versus hoping that people are coming?
Mm-hmm.
And that was where I started thinking, okay, if not me, somebody else is going to do it. And I am so done with sitting on the sidelines and dreaming and hoping. Let's just do something about it. Well, and that's how I started dreaming up R.I.S.E. Media. It's like, okay, so I want to change how performing arts are being perceived, seen, and how they operate. And I want to give them coaching too. Like, I want them to have the ability to have access to all the coaching that is out there. And at the same time have the funds to actually invest in themselves, because isn't that for everybody in gosh, in no matter what stage you're in, like investing in yourself is always something that we should do. We should invest 30% of our own worth into ourselves and getting better, because that's how we increase our worth as well, right? And nobody's doing that in performing arts. They just invest into, I don't know, $1.30 into maybe another singing lesson or voice lesson or something like that. But nobody invests into their brain, to their mindset, into spirituality, in learning other skills, in investing. What does it look like to run a business, right? So I started with having, why don't we have like a mind valley for performing artists, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And then, okay, how are they going to get the money though? How am I going to do that? And then I learned about Patreon and, okay, how can we implement this? And with all the changes recently in social media, that is how R.I.S.E. Media really was born. Like I want to set the mark in showing that every performing arts company does not have to be a non-for-profit company. They can create most of their funds, and with wise investing, they can make it happen.
How does one go about that? Like, how does one?
Oh, so as in platform and people. Yeah. So if you're a performing artist, you're a coach, you're like anybody that is a creator and wants to, well, build several streams of income, we give you the platform that no matter where you live in the world, no matter how many followers you have, you don't even have to have a membership where, people are subscribing to your content. We give you the platform, and if you need more help, also the ability to create more content on a regular basis, to put that onto R.I.S.E. Media's platform. You bring your followers to us, and through advertisement, through NFT, through affiliates, through per view payouts with tokens, etc. This is how you are eligible to earn money. And we only take a percentage. It doesn't cost anybody anything if you're not in a membership program in order to be coached or to learn more or to be in a network and an end. But to just have your content house, it doesn't cost you anything. We're only taking a certain percentage of your earnings. And we're also having a decentralized pay system, meaning no Stripe, no PayPal.
Okay.
Because I don't know about you, but I get frustrated if I have to wait 5 days, 7 days to get paid out from the other side. And I get it, but there are new ways nowadays through crypto that money can come into your account within seconds, and you don't have to pay your 3.15% plus the 30 cents. It's like a cent on a dollar, literally. I really want to create the win-win-win for everybody so that everybody really can make the most out of it. I think for creators, their content is their asset. And I really want to lean into that. That is what we're going to monetize.
And so are you looking for creatives to come on board? Are you looking for individuals? What do you need now to help this grow?
Wow, great question, everybody. So yes. So what I'm looking for is definitely artists that want to like jump on board and once the platform is actually built, to be our testers and and like have input and say, hey, this works really good. There's too much resistance here. Like I wouldn't do it this way. That is super helpful. I'm looking for a sponsor, not sponsors, advertisement collaborations. I'm looking for podcasters, blog writers, anybody and everybody that has something as a side gig, perhaps, as well as just their art itself, to collaborate with. Yeah.
And you also have the Kickstarter. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we launched a Kickstarter campaign 3 weeks ago to raise the funds for actually building out the platform. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we can have it's called MVP, minimal viable product. So I can go and attract more investors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I only bootstrapped everything I built so far. Bootstrapping means that you pay for that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But this time I could do it that too, but it's going to take too long. Too long, as in the time is now. So I'm going to use other people's money to help elevate the whole thing. Okay. So for the Kickstarter, are you familiar how crowdfunding works?
Tell us.
It is not going the way I was anticipating it to go.
Okay.
I actually hired a company to do so, and it's not seeding. So I think you caught me on a really, really dark day. And I appreciate it. I'm so like, oh God. But you know what? Maybe it's not all that bad. Maybe this is just a lesson, and okay, you have some work to do. Maybe I'm not ready yet. Maybe there is something better out there that if this is not seeding, you just got to think differently. But this is running until December 9th. Yeah.
Okay. And so as I understand how that works, is like a certain amount that is being looked for. So people donate. And then if it like you don't get the funds that you're looking for, then their money doesn't get taken. It's just whatever, just in air, right?
It just actually goes back into you. They're actually not being charged until the campaign ends, right? And they still at that time have the option to back out, to say, actually, I changed my mind. I don't want to be involved anymore. Yeah, exactly. So if you don't reach your goal, nobody gets paid. And actually, it's not donation based, not only, but it's actually seen as an investment, and you're pre-buying products. That's how it really is. So we have different tiers and what kind of service you can actually obtain through R.I.S.E Media.
And so I noticed that, and you just said it here, that you perhaps have some other ideas. So you have some other ideas as well as the Kickstarter. Is that what you're saying?
No, as a scrappy former performing artist, and well, I'm talking to investment groups right now. Like I am rewriting my pitch deck. I am rewriting the business plan. I am hustling to find people that are actually in that kind of scene, because that is not my scene yet. Like the whole investor, I thought I'm going to go in there in like maybe February, March, but here we are in it, because I can't build the platform until I have at least quarter of the yearly budget. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. So if you're somebody that knows investors, particularly investors for women in technology and media, I would love to be connected if that works.
Right. Awesome. And so the program that we connected in, is that helpful to you in that way?
So it's helpful for me because I meet people like you. It is helpful for me to have a network. And I love meeting people. I don't think it's the right group to be in for this particular. It's great for learning. It's great for just connecting with people. That's the best. I'm actually looking for a coach right now for me to bring me, like to coach me how to pitch, to tell the story right, and to put me in front of investors, because that is really the need right now.
Yeah. And I feel like that there's people in that group that have done that, not maybe in the arts, but that have done exactly that.
Oh yeah, sure. And I've been in many of her programs. So here's me and my imposter syndrome. I don't think that's my league yet. Thank you for understanding and for nodding over and over and again. Oh my gosh, is this going to be on video? Because this is really good. You all should see us right now.
Yeah, so even I don't buy into that. Excuse my crass. I want to say to you, even if that was the case, it's still a good exercise for you.
Oh, see, I know you're right, and I so don't want to hear it, but I know you're right. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it would be a great exercise.
Because you've already paid for that in my estimation.
Oh yeah, over and over and over again. I did. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I guess you're right. Well, I know you're right. Not I guess you're right. Thank you for that kick in the booty. Appreciate it. And this is so still hard to hear, but I think it's so important to share this message because the most time we don't do something or we're afraid of doing something and therefore we're not taking action and procrastinating is because we want to live in the hope that it's possible versus knowing it's a no.
Mm-hmm.
And that no feels for me still like I don't love you,
Mm-hmm.
which brings up all my abandonment issues. And there is where courage
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't. I don't have the courage to go through this over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I know that I should, and it's not going to kill me. And all of this, that the story that I build up is not the truth. But boy, does it feel true to me still.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's where we go back to in this conversation, what a brave person you are. So you will get there because you are brave.
Thank
You'll
you.
get
Yeah, totally. You know what? I know I will
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to do anything else. I really don't. Like this
You
is
go.
bringing me so much joy. Listen, what I'm doing right now, everything that I'm learning was on my I never ever gonna do that list. Media, knowing everything about everybody.
Mm-hmm.
What? Way too stressful. Never am I gonna do that. Tech, what's an algorithm? NFTs, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to Gary Vee talking to Mark Zuckerberg, talking about, metaverse. I understand maybe one word out of a whole sentence, but I'm doing it anyway. Yeah, it is just intriguing how far we can actually grow and learn if we remove the sides of the box that we're in.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Also, being open, I guess, or nope, let me rewind. Being aware that you've already heard no a gazillion times. No, you can't sit down during this. No, I'm making it up now, Susanne. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, but you're right.
Right? How many no's have you been through? And, and so maybe you're at a point where you're like, I can't take another no right now. I've had my share of no's in the world, right? And so maybe you need to put yourself into a space where you hear a ton of yeses, whatever that space is, so then you can move forward to hear the no's, because we're all going to have to continue to hear the no's, but giving yourself grace to be like, you know what, I'm good with the no's right now. But don't just be good in one spot. Move yourself into a place where you're going to hear yes, 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 you're fabulous, yes, 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 whatever, and build that up a little bit, and then head over to the no's, because you got to go there anyways,
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think the more and more we talk about it, that we're actually not looking forward to the no's or don't even want to hear them because of A, B, and Z. That also just removes a layer of I wouldn't say shame, but like it's just talking about it openly, what's really going on in any kind of space, being an entrepreneur or not. We all do face the same things, right? Most people don't step into these shoes because they're afraid of failure, because they're afraid of hearing the no's. And at the end of the day, it feels uncomfortable for about 90 minutes tops, maybe in the beginning, a day or two. Well, have your ice cream, have your chocolate, clear your calendar, get over it, and then move on. And I'm coaching myself here. But that requires you got to look out for yourself first. You really have to take care of yourself. You really have to have your own back. You got to high five yourself in the mirror like 50 times a day. And then we're capable to hear the no as well. Yeah,
exactly. You're certainly capable. You're certainly capable of hearing that now. Just to mirror it back to you. You just said it. I'm just saying it back. Yeah. So tell the audience how they can find you. Obviously put all the links in the show notes and all that stuff, but tell them how best to find you and where they can follow along your journey.
Awesome. Well, you can find me literally on every platform that's out there under Susanne Puerschel. And R.I.S.E Media now is on Instagram and on TikTok and on LinkedIn. And I have a podcast that is re-picking up in January. It's very dancer specific. We're launching a R.I.S.E Media podcast, which is a 7-day a week, serving performing artists. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
I love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Susanne. This was so good. Thank you so much for coming, for your time, for your transparency. I really love this.
Thank you so much for having me. I fairly enjoyed this conversation.
Until next time, continue to wonder boldly.